take this opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Name and address,
I'm
please.
Charles Kaska, K-A-S-K-A, 9174 Humphrey Lane. I'm speaking on behalf of my wife, Dr. Jennifer Torsch, G-H-O-R-S-C-H, who is on the board of the Protect Lake Beulah and is unable to be here tonight. I oppose the request by West Broad Cottage Industries to rezone a sensitive area of Lake Beulah to a C2 designation for the following three reasons. One, the area being proposed is of critical importance to the environmental health and preservation of this sensitive entity. In addition, increased activity in this area by marina traffic will disrupt the ecology of the lake. Bear in mind, the person who's speaking this is the Emeritus Director of a Center for Biodiversity and Ecological Restoration. Two, it is critical to prevent these areas which surround the sensitive habitat from causing irreparable damage. Activities would be negative impact this sensitive area include development such as buildings, grading, parking lots, runoff from nearby areas, and improper use of a C4 area. 3. The site is included in the Pickerel Lake Fen in the SEWRPAC, which is SEWRPC, and Walworth County Natural Areas Plans, and designated as a natural area of statewide importance. Rezoning this sensitive habitat would have long-lasting negative consequences for Lake Beulah and the state of Wisconsin. It's signed by the speaker, and does anyone care?
Sure, I'll just leave your copy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Brian Fons, N8680, Millers Grove Road.
Thank you.
Okay. And I just have a few comments and a little bit of follow-up. Emma recently was added to the board for the Clever Beulah organization. And I was at the last meeting and heard many of the comments that were presented. And the first thing I just wanted to follow up on was a lot of discussion and presentation was about the critical habitat area and the sensitive area that we're talking about back in West Bay. And in fact, I have some copies of the maps here. Can I give this to you guys? Or, okay. And a couple of points. One, when we're looking at that area, it's basically the whole bay. So when you look at Stringer's Ridge Road, that's pretty far on the west end, which would be the left side of the map on the bottom left corner. And that's approximate area we're looking at, trying to rezone for a marina. But there's a long channel to get out of that bay. And I moved on this lake in 1982. I run the bass tournament for 20 years. I'm very familiar with that area. I fish back in those flats. And when I go back in that area, I carry a 15-foot pole with duckbills, because if you get off that channel, it quickly gets to be 6 to 8 inches shallow and you get stuck very easily. So, one thing to bring a john boat through that channel, it's another thing to bring 18, 20, or 24-foot pontoon boat, which catch wind, or they're loaded with 15 people, you get off that path, and they drop that motor, get out of there, it's gonna just rip it up. And, you know, I don't know that a pontoon boat's gonna be able to push their way out of it. So there's just a practical aspect of the type of boats that might be harbored back in there and used, and the damage that they could do. The channel itself is no wider than the pontoon itself. Most areas it's 6 feet wide. Some areas a little wider, some a little less. But just trying to maneuver a boat back in there, backing it out of the slip where it's at to get it turned around and come. Like I said, you get off that channel and it gets shallow extremely fast. So I have real concerns about going from an area where we keep John boats to try and put pontoon boats back in there. And it is quite a ways to get out of there. And again, that is a ecologically sensitive area designated as a critical habitat area by the DNR. As Tom Vandenberg had brought up at the last meeting, and it was debated that in 45, 50 years, there has never been a rezoning of a critical habitat area to harbor marina, to rezone for marina. And that was contested, and I talked to him today. He went back and he talked with a DNR person, Heidi Bunk, and she confirmed that that is the case, that there's not been a rezoning of that type of an area for a marina in modern history, really.
That's fine, Brian.
Okay. Just in general to wrap, I have real grave concerns about trying to use pontoon boats in there and.
I just want a reminder to go out that anything that is handed out tonight is for informational purposes only. It's not evidence that the board will be basing this decision upon. It's not noticed as such. So whatever was just handed out was a visual aid, but it's not evidence.
I believe this may have been handed out at planning commission meetings.
It has.
Okay.
That is for the DNR.
Okay,
Hi, Pat Bergen, 3905 Pat Bergen. I'm the chair of the Lakeview Management District. If I could, I'd just like to start off with a quick question. What is under consideration tonight? Can I ask the board on that?
it's noticed as,
It's a yes or no vote on the rezone request. There'll be a roll call vote like last month.
Okay. And what is the result of that rezone request? Does that go then to Walworth County or will it be? Okay, so it doesn't get kicked back to the planning commission?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. So the only issue in front of the board is a complete rezone of this property from C4 to C2. And we've all heard the explanation of why this is an extremely sensitive area. So I guess, and I heard I saw heads shaking right away. This is a complete rezone application, and I heard from the planning commission last time around, or from the board itself, that this is somehow a split rezone. So can someone explain to me how we got to that point?
Right, there's no questions to the board. It'll be a vote on the application as it came in, period.
As a complete rezone.
the application was for a complete whole lot.
Okay, it just seemed, as the chair of the district, I get a lot of questions, and there were a lot of people watching, and there are a lot of people that reviewed the decision, and were extremely concerned that this group thought that this was a partial rezone application. And I feel that a number of questions, both at the executive association's meeting, and I really would emphasize that this is a complete rezone application, something that's literally never been done before in the history of the it's really gonna open a significant can of worms. The other major problem with the proposed rezone is, even a rezone to C2, the applicant needs to demonstrate how he's protecting this environment, and he has done nothing of the sort. He essentially wants to pave it over, and he wants to put a marina into this environmentally sensitive area. The marina is going to cover up area that is sensitive fish habitat. It is going to affect the reproductive grounds, the spawning grounds for fish. We have heard all of that testimony. One of the things that this group needs to show is that it doesn't have any effect on those things. It's right in the statute. So not only is this C4 property, and quite frankly, the definition of C4 property, and it's extremely valuable, and it doesn't, once it's destroyed, and he's working on destroying it, it's gone forever. You can't rehab it. You can't just take a priceless piece of property and put it back into circulation. The other thing is, it's obviously not, it doesn't meet the definition for C2 property. But the other, clarity, we need to have some clarity with what goes to Walworth County. We need to understand that he doesn't have 250 feet of frontage here. He has about 130 as outlined on the survey, so there's no entitlement here to 10 votes in any event. So we would need to change the law. And the last thing here is, what we have here is a serial code violator. And what this board, by changing the zoning from C4 to C2, is recognizing the fact that, okay, well, we've got a violator, what are we gonna do? Do we enforce our laws? Do we enforce the laws we have on the books? Do we get someone to comply before we even consider his desire to change the law? Or do we just let him keep violating the law, and keep violating the law, and keep violating the law? And that's what this board is doing by allowing him to make this zoning change. We're rewarding him for violations of the law. Thank you very much.
Any comments?
Jeff Steiner, the road. The only additional comment I would like to make is, and we've heard this before, but the definition of C2 requires 5 acres. He is 4.5 acres short of meeting that criteria. There is also a comparison of a neighbor that, we keep hearing that it was awarded to that person. My understanding of that property, which, I don't know the exact address of that property, but my understanding from talking to people, that is a 5-acre parcel. So that parcel meets the criteria, which is why it was changed from C4 to C2. This is 0.4 acres. Unfortunately, 4.5 acres short of meeting the minimum requirement for what would be considered a C2 property. As a reminder, thank you.
Other comments?
I'd like to hand out a couple of visual aids, like we go with.
Your time has started, just so you know.
Start right now. Okay, can I have, 2 of Carla's minutes of her board? I'd like to rebut what the other guy said, and it's hard to do it in 4 minutes. So I want to start out by saying, most of the stuff that Patrick Bergen mentions tonight is in total error, and I have documents and facts here that will back up what I'm trying to say. So I want to begin by addressing the question, was my application to the planning commission filled out correctly? The first step is to go to Walworth County to make sure what you're asking for is even possible with the county. The county are the experts when it comes to shoreline zoning. So I contacted Kate Hastings at the county, and I explained what was going on here by the misunderstanding of my application, the way it was filled out. And I wrote her an email, and I want to read it to you, and I'm going to read you her response back. Hello, Kate. The date of this was September 19th, 24. Hello, Kate. This is a follow-up letter to our phone conversation on 9/13/24. We met in person on May 6, 2024. We went over my rezone and conditional use application for my property known as North 8828 Stearns Ridge Road. We discussed in detail an application for Walworth County for both my rezone and conditional use for the above mentioned property. I brought in my wetland delineation survey map that had two legal descriptions on it. One legal description showing the area to remain in C4, wetland along the shore. The other legal description showed the upland portion of the property that I was applying to be changed to C2. At the conclusion of our meeting, you provided your initials on my application to signify that I met with you, and my application was ready to be turned into Walworth County. I submitted a copy of my application to the town of East Troy, as I was instructed to do by the planning commission clerk. I filled out my application to the planning commission the same way I filled out my application to Walworth County. I understand from reading the Walworth County zoning book, you cannot rezone any land in Walworth County that has been determined to be wetland after a wetland remediation has been done. Can you please explain to me in your response that the way I filled out my application to Walworth County was done correctly, was necessary for me to write the word split zoning on my application to the town? Could you please clarify this for me? And then Kate responded back to me in a little over an hour and 10 minutes later. Good afternoon, the term split zoning is not something I am familiar with, nor have I required applicants to put it on their rezone applications. Should a rezone request be approved, like your parcel would technically have dual zonings, 2 districts on one parcel, but you are only required to rezone a portion of C4 to C2. So only the C2 would need to be listed on your application. Since the entire parcel is already zoned C4, you are requesting one new zoning district on the parcel, signed Kate Hastings. Okay, now I want to show you here, these are the Wisconsin ordinances here, how to determine the shoreline of, the frontage of a shoreline. And in Wisconsin, on public inland lakes, you do it using the survey wheel to measure all the irregularities, regardless of the irregularities of the shoreline. So I don't have 134 feet, I have just about 250 feet. I'm just a few inches short, few feet short, because I had some erosion going on there. So basically, the statement that I don't have the shoreline is erroneous. Now, if you look at the next page that I provided to you in your packets here, this is off Google, and it basically states here, how much? It states there's some exceptions to the rules. Piers ending before April 17th can keep their existing boat slip usage. Chairman Karkowski said only the piers are grandfathered. That's wrong. And then on the next page here, on the DNR's website, it says boat slips are included as well.
Carl Jordan, Harding, 59 Street Road. Just to emphasize what John said about the frontage, I actually called the DNR today and asked questions like that. It's also on their webpage, and we submitted that to the planning commission, but they always want to ignore it. There is an asterisk on their webpage stating with all new pier requests that you do have to follow the rules of 50, 2 boats for the first 50 feet. After each 50 foot after that, you get a slip. There's a bottom asterisk that states that as of April 17th, 2012, anything that's grandfathered before that, you are allowed the exact boat slips you have, along with the piers. We've submitted that again to the planning commission, and they just kind of ignore anything that we give that's contraindicated to what they're saying. Also, I'd like to go into my question on what happened last meeting. I've been coming to a lot of town meetings over the years, and we have not had a motion placed on the agenda ever. The last couple of meetings, we've added that. We would not be spending more time on the rezoning if it would not have been on the agenda to be read like that. There was total confusion, and what was placed on last month's motion was more or less a negative. It was a motion to approve the planning commission recommendation to deny. This month, it's changed to motion to approve the rezone request for our parcel. If it wasn't placed in that negative format, we wouldn't be here right now, because the 3 supervisors had to vote on a negative to a negative, a denial of a denial. So then it goes up to the, county goes, what is this? It comes back down, and now here we are, to try to correct what was done last month. So now you can say, yes, I want to rezone it, or no, I can, rezone it. So I hope all this other stuff going on doesn't change anyone's minds, because simply, it never should have went back to the, county, the way it was stated. Another thing, I've listened to all the planning commission meetings, and I have minutes of them talking about, basically dual zoning. There's no such thing as split zoning, in Walmart County. I have at least 4 or 5 spots where it is talked about that we are not rezoning the, C4 of the property. Everything from the delineation line upland is going to be C2. I don't know why they insist that. There was nothing ever said about that. All these meetings were all about that, because we had to prove that we had an updated delineation map. We've satisfied that. Again, I have several points where they spoke about this. In fact, it's even in the June 5th minutes that were approved. It states right there that Chairman Cook talks about it and corrects a few of the alternates that were put on the planning commission, that they had questions about, well, is this a full rezoning? He said, no, John is not asking for a full rezoning. So if, as you said, you listened to all those meetings, you know darn well that they spoke about that. Thank you.
All right, public comments?
I might want to say something about it sometime.
We'll have an opportunity to respond to some of this.
I can speak, right?
Yes.
My name is Patricia Cook. I live at W1337 Beulah Lane Road. I have a real estate broker's license, 30 years of real estate, and dealing with different zonings or whatever. Number one, the zoning that someone said you had to have 5 acres. The 5 acres is for if you're gonna build a house. And for different zonings, you can have 4.8 or 4.5, something like that. Because, I was working with a property with the county with a, rezoning in the township of Troy. Also, rezoning, part of it being like 4 something and 2, you wanna change the 2 something? Okay, the 2 doesn't have to have 5 acres, I know that. You have to talk to the county if you don't understand that. And these maps that they have, well, the maps get updated all the time, or will, or could be changed according to, is there's trees there? If there's trees there, then you take it out of wetland zoning and put it into a different zoning. So, unless that's in water, the part they wanted to rezone, then, they should be able to do that. If there's trees on it, or bushes, they should be able to change that part. Somehow or another, it was oversighted some years ago. And, let's see, there was something else. And who wrote up some kind of document that went to the county? I would like to see that. Was that written by a real estate broker in the state of Wisconsin, or a real estate attorney? Or was it someone in the group pretended to be a real estate broker or attorney? Because that's a violation. You can't pretend to write up documents to do that. You know, whoever wrote up something, who wrote it up?
You could submit an open records request and we could look into it.
Well, that person has to be recorded as state. Real estate broker's license, people do report these things to the state. They're responsible for doing that. So when there's something not doing correctly, or someone's doing something strange, but I'm surprised you have an attorney here. How come you didn't write it?
Because I wasn't at the plan commission minutes to draft a resolution.
But there's, municipal attorneys for the townships and cities in the state of Wisconsin. that if you don't have an attorney that wants to write it up, then you go to those stations. And there's
And
one
with
downtown
respect to
Waukesha.
real estate forms, yes, the standardized forms can be filled out by real estate brokers, but a real estate broker cannot draft a resolution unless you have a law license as well.
A real estate broker can draft things in offers.
In offers, that's a standardized form that the state uses.
So if you have to do it with an attorney, why did you do it? Or why did the group go to someone that's called a municipal attorney, municipal attorneys,
Municipal.
downtown Waukesha?
I'm a municipal attorney. Minutes were forwarded to the county. Minutes do not have to be drafted by someone that has a law license.
But it sounded like it was saying something or something or something or something, but he didn't explain the something. I'll look
I
it
don't
up.
understand the question.
I'll look it up.
Speaking of the resolution that was on the agenda last month, that is in the packet. Last month's agenda, that will be a resolution. Yes.
So I guess basically what I'm saying is if you have one zoning, you can change it. One's wetland and one is not. Wetland, even wetland you can build on. A lot of Milwaukee is built on wetlands. Do you guys have anything more to say?
There's nothing, it's your time.
No, there's.
Art. Public comments? Anyone else? Anyone in the back? All right.
Scott Cornell at 2415 Eagle Avenue. Been here before a couple times, many times.
Thank you.
Just met John down on the road, I was taking some pictures of his machinery. It was not a pretty sight. The barge that he has down there I talked about before has come loose and hit the bridge. The barge is on where he wants to do the zone, you can see the marks there. He digs out just enough for a pontoon, he's got 7 down there now. You can go down there right now before the grass grows with that rain and take a look what he's gonna do in the future. He's gonna put about 6 or 4 more over there, you can almost fit him right in there. His 130 feet or 180 is now 240, just like he did in Milwaukee somehow, he got more running down the road. He uses the vehicle equipment, he digs out the dirt, sends us on our way, we can take a ride, and get some pictures for you. You can run a boat, whatever you wanna do, you can stop at the bridge and look at the marks of the barges. Now it's on the other side, last year it was in the water, I think it's over 20 feet, I don't know, it's a big piece of equipment. So he's digging out also the dirt towards the bridge on his West Drive cottage situation. Parking lot, I read his permits, he's talking about mooring boats, you can put an anchor, chain and moor a wave runner. You can moor another boat, maybe it's not close to shore, he doesn't need piers right now for the pontoons that he's got there. And eventually those will be shifted over and he'll have the bigger pontoons with the 225 or whatever he's gonna do. A couple gentlemen here said they fished, I've been out there, I'm a fishing guy, I've been out here since '83. I know we call them Freddy pads, I can get anybody in there today, he's stumping. Any stumping, any of the pads on Lake Erie, and I'll put my word to it. Stumps, they're 149 years old, they disappear, they come in the root trees. I can take the fishing holes where the bass are, the smallmouths, the largemouths. What he's doing here has been doing ever since in Milwaukee, and I think one of his lawyers even said the best thing for John Starks to do is to move out in Milwaukee. That was his goal. Oh, reserve that balance of my time for his whatever. Thank you.
I'm lost.
Good. Public comments? Everybody got it?